The title I chose is by Bonvesson de la Riva. Born between 1240 and 1250, Bonvesson de la Riva was a scholar who, in 1288, wrote a Latin eulogy of his beloved city, titled De Magnalibus Urbis Mediolani. When translated into Italian, Magnalibus becomes Meravigli, meaning the wonders of Milan. We won't focus here on the beauty of Milan's historic buildings or the pink marble stones that shape its iconic cathedral from Candoglia. This won't be a guided tour of the city's landmarks. Instead, it will be a journey, one that, through 3 stories from 3 distinct eras, seeks to uncover the very spirit of Milan. Our narrative won't follow a linear path. Rather, it will weave up and down through time, searching for something intangible, something without which the city's buildings, streets, and parks would lose their true meaning.
Giacomo Ravizza, an armourer from Milan in the parish of Santa Maria Beltrade, returns home on the night of St. Lucia, December 13, 1446. His house must be quite large, as it has 2 entrances, one leading onto the street of the Armors, today's Via Spadari, and the other onto the street of the blacksmiths, now Via Orefici. As he walks through the darkened rooms, he senses someone's presence, catches a glimpse of a shadow, and panics, calling for help. Almost immediately, his steward, Giacomo Casina, arrives. Hidden in a corner of the painted room on the 1st floor, is the intruder, Aloisio da Gessate. Ravizza grabs him by the collar. Aloisio begs for forgiveness, explaining that he entered the house with a key given to him by Giovannina, Ravizza's daughter-in-law. At this point, a storm breaks loose. Terrified, Giovannina locks herself in her room, crying and refusing to open the door unless they swear not to harm her. Ravizza, growing more furious by the minute, calls for the public authorities, as well as for Giovannina's father, Franciscino, who lives nearby. Franciscino, a native of Biasono, is known in Milan as Monzino. When he arrives and hears what has happened, he too is enraged. Pounding on his daughter's door, he shouts, "Open up, you wretch! Father, oh father! I am no longer your father. Open the door, open it. I won't open it unless you promise not to hurt me." Finally, the officer of the public force intervenes, giving her his word. Giovannina opened the door. Silent and shaken, she refuses to speak. Everyone returns to the main hall, where Giacomo Ravizza hands the traitor Aloisio over to the authorities, who take him to the prisons of the Captain of Justice, located nearby. The investigation begins the next day, and we know about it thanks to notary, Giacomo Puigo. The survey offers a glimpse into the lives of these artisans.
Among the witnesses there are 3 workers who were employed in the armory workshop. They were at work during the night. Second, it means that the organizational model of combining home and workshop, very common at the time, had a widespread variation. The house served both as a comfortable living space, as seen in the frescoed rooms, and as a workplace. This is why these houses were so large. And third, it means that work was carried out in continuous shifts, which explains why the 3 witnesses were on duty.
Milan's manufacturing vocation is not a medieval phenomenon but one that has existed and flourished since Roman times. Surviving inscriptions do not mention agricultural activities in the Milanese territory, although other written sources describe them as highly productive. Despite the ruling class's wealth being rooted in the fertility of the land and the flourishing of livestock, particularly sheep and pigs, it is not noted for land holdings in the inscriptions. Instead, epigraphic evidence refers to activities related to the production and trade of garments, linen, and hides, leading us to believe that Milan played a significant role, second only to Aquileia, among the main production centers in northern Italy.
They parade before our eyes figures of modest origin, yet proud of their work and the status they achieved, made evident by the visibility of their stele. The inscriptions especially highlight the activities of Segerii, workers in the wool industry, often slaves or freedmen, along with negotiators Segerii and Vinrii, wool and wine merchants, Pilisserii leather workers, and even carpentrii, carriage maintenance workers, who also provided rental services and pack animals for travelers. Masters and teachers. Here stands the funerary stele of Hortensia, Magistra.
Craft guilds such as the Collegium Fabrorum, Association of Blacksmiths, Carpenters, and Skilled Workers, are recorded, often with a repunctator, auditor, and a patron, typically a prominent citizen, sometimes even a woman. Trade was facilitated by Milan's geographical position, located on a plain rich in navigable waterways. However, these waterways became more efficient only from the 12th century onward, around 1150, when the construction of the Great Naviglio began. And then there were the roads. To be clear, the Romans did not build their famous consular roads for trade, but for military purposes. Yet, the roads were there. At that time, and for many centuries afterward, no other region in Europe had as many roads. Another leap in time brings us to the 19th century, the golden age of Milan as an industrial city. I could choose from countless stories of industrial ventures founded in that era, key players in the city's economic and social life, many of which have since closed, completed their course, and made way for new ones. For what? A new way of working. The city changes. It shifts. It transforms.
So, I mention Richard Gonori. This is the story of Luigi Tinethli, a gentleman from Laveno, on the Lombard shore of Lake Maggiore, an aristocratic follower of Mazzini, sentenced to death, imprisoned at Spielberg, and later a confidant of King Charles Albert during his exile in Oporto. Perhaps only in Italy could such a story unfold during those years. The factory was actually founded in 1806 by a group of partners. Luigi Tinethli took it over in the 1820s. He was very young at the time, born in 1799. He participated in the revolts of 1821, had numerous clashes with the Austrian police, but eventually returned to the city to manage the ceramics factory. Things did not go well for him in 1831. After that year's uprisings, he was imprisoned, tried, and sentenced to death. However, the authorities commuted his death sentence to 20 years of hard labor at Spielberg. In the end, Tinethli himself chose to make use of an Austrian law that allowed him to avoid Spielberg by accepting the loss of civil rights and deportation for life to the United States.
Before the factory was confiscated due to his conviction, Luigi handed it over to his brother Carlo. However, Carlo Tinelli soon realized he couldn't manage the factory and attempted to sell it. This is when Giulio Richard, a young man of Swiss origin, stepped in. He managed the company for several years before purchasing it in 1840. The factory thrived to the point that, by 1877, it was listed on the Milan Stock Exchange. In 1896, Richard acquired Ginori, a renowned factory founded in Tuscany in 1735. Ginori's prominence was such that the company eventually changed its name to Richard Ginori. In the 1920s, the architect Gio Ponti collaborated with Richard Ginori, introducing the concept of producing high-quality, yet affordable ceramics, a hugely successful idea. The factory survived both world wars and the post-war reconstruction, but by the 1960s, the rise of plastic marked the end of its golden era. Richard Ginori produced high-quality wall tiles and pottery for the home and bathroom, initially bowls and jugs in various shapes, sizes, and decorative styles, and later sanitary ware. The years leading up to World War I were prosperous for the company. Richard Ginori participated in the 1906 International Exhibition, where it celebrated the opening of the Simplon Tunnel with its ceramic tiles. After the war, the company continued to achieve great success under the artistic direction of Gio Ponti, who democratized design. However, the spread of plastic eventually marked the end of its long-lasting success.
Technological innovation drives success as long as you stay ahead of the curve. The factory gradually shut down, and the area fell into disrepair, no longer attracting anyone's interest. Yet, what an area it was! A vast space practically within the city itself. The fate of abandoned industrial zones is often either degradation or real estate speculation. Fortunately, the city of Milan stepped in, making speculation impossible. The area has been restored and redeveloped, and it is now owned by an international company that manages advertising campaigns worldwide. Work changes, shifts, and transforms. The central experience of working life in manufacturing, commerce, and finance is the perception of constant change. Over the last century, change has occurred so rapidly that it has become difficult to fully grasp. Nevertheless, the legacy of a manufacturing and commercial civilization lies in viewing calculation as a positive mental attitude, the ability to set a goal and rationally adjust one's behavior to achieve it efficiently. From this notion arises a sensitivity to the rights of personal freedom. Individuals must have complete freedom, and assume full responsibility, to define their own goals. Ultimately, the concept of personal freedom fosters an awareness of extending these rights to all. Everyone has the right to live without suffering from hunger and to receive fair compensation for their work. Thus, it is the industrial city that not only fosters a vision of work as productive and liberating but also nurtures a sensitivity to collective freedom, raising the issue of a fair distribution of wealth. That is why Milan became a socialist city.
A public competition launched in 1989 entrusted the architect Vittorio Gregotti with the project of reurbanization of Bicocca. For the Pirelli headquarters, Gregotti kept in the center of the building the spectacular cooling tower, which is certainly the most significant building of the area, focal point of the whole Bicocca and symbol of the transformation of the neighborhood.